morning, everybody. It's 11 o'clock, a little bit over 11 o'clock. Everyone is awake and prepared for the lightning talk session. Now, we have 7 speakers, and we are planning to have them, each of these 7 to give them all respect that they step up forward to the mic. And my first guest here is Tilly, and she's having a talk about free beer. And free beer at 11 o'clock in the morning is a little bit early, but
healthy breakfast.
Good be good. So, please.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for getting up so early. Excuse me if I sit down, but I have some extra luggage to carry, so I'm only doing the workshop. I'm not actually drinking the beer, so don't worry about the baby. This is just to get you warmed up. Can you see me there in the corner? Yeah. This afternoon, I will be doing a workshop about making beer. It starts at 2 o'clock in the kitchen of the big BSD hardware hacking tent. And you're all invited. I will now explain the very basics and what you need, like simple stuff that you can find in your mother's kitchen and so on. The processes involved in making beer consists first of the crushing of all the wheat and malts that you are going to use. I make beer starting from the very basic ingredients. We don't do the kit workshop like where you have an extract and you just add water and stir and wait until it's ready. No, we do the real thing. So we start with real wheat and barley and other malts, and we will crush them in a mill. Then we will release the sugars, what are needed for fermentation. The yeast will make alcohol from the sugars that are in the wheat, and this process is called mashing. This is in the general structure of a grain. You have to release it to get the sugars out of the matrix. And then you have to rinse the result with water, with hot water, to extract those sugars. And then we can start cooking them up with sugars and, extra sugar, that is, as food for the yeast. And hops, of course, very important ingredient of beer. Then the next day, this is filtered, and we can start the yeasting process. And 2 weeks later, you can do the bottling, and then another 6 weeks later, you can start to try drinking your beer. So making beer is actually a very boring process, but in order to get it more interesting, I prepared all the different steps so that we can do everything in one afternoon. And I also have 15 liters of beer with me for tasting to shorten the time. So, just an overview of what you need for making the beer. I use mainly wheat and barley. You need hops, sugar, just normal sugar, what you can find in your kitchen cupboard. Baker's yeast, nothing special. It's the same family as the yeast that is used for making beer. I think actually that the sort of yeast what you are using, like you have yeast for making abbey beers and yeast for making dark beers, light beers, etc. There's a lot of different yeast cultures which often have existed for centuries. I just go to my local baker and I ask for some yeast and it works just as well. Of course, if you want to make really strong beers, then you need another type of yeast because the baker's yeast can only support up to 8% of alcohol and then it dies. So like for instance, for making wine, you have wine yeast. For making stronger beers, there's yeast that supports a higher level of alcohol. What we also will need is lots of warm water. So I hope by the time that we start the workshop, everybody has finished showering and that the heating installation has caught up so that I don't have to warm everything because that will take a long time. I have a big gas installation, but still heating water, this is what takes up lots of time. Then, for the crushing of the wheat and the barley, you need a mill, but you can also order crushed wheat, of course. You need scales, and you need a container to put everything in. The container what I have is a big pot, what I bought at the Scouts shop, where you can fit in 25 liters. And for making 40 liters of beer, I do it in 2 times. For the mashing, the pot what you need, warm water again, big cooking fire. I use gas because it goes fast and also because it's mobile. I started brewing beer in my mother's kitchen, but it makes a lot of, not dirt, but you spill a lot of stuff. So now I do it in my garage, it's easier. And with the mobile gas installation, you can brew just about anywhere. Also here on the camp. You will need a timer. On your GSM, you have a timer, cell phone. And you will need a thermometer, like the one that you can find for sterilizing normal foodstuffs. That's enough. We need a thermometer here that can measure between 40 and 70 degrees approximately. So nothing special, you can find that everywhere. For the filtering, you need containers or buckets, and again, lots of warm water. For cooking up everything, it's the same. You need the big pot and the gas installation. You can also use whatever you have in your kitchen. But the advantage of using gas is that it goes faster. For filtering, I will show you in the workshop what you need. I made some more advanced installations. I started out with like a cooling box, but that's not actually very handy. I went to my local Praxis or DIY store, and I made from 2 big boxes, I made a filtering installation with a Robin in the end so that you can easily let everything flow through. My father is a winemaker, and he has these big damjans, what it's called, big glass bottles for letting the wine ferment. And I use the same for making the beer, but whatever container what you have will do just fine if you can just seal it airtight. For airtight sealing, we have a water lock, which I will demonstrate during the workshop. For the yeasting, just normal kitchen stuff. For bottling, of course, you need a lot of bottles. I use champagne bottles. This is part of the joy of brewing beer. I drank a lot of champagne before I could start. I use the bigger champagne bottles because they can take a lot of pressure. Don't underestimate the pressure of stuff that is yeasting. I use also the champagne corks and little wired thingies to close the bottles, because it's really necessary. You don't want your bottles to explode, and you don't want your beer to start foaming all over the room. Also, at this stage, you need disinfectant. It's very important during the whole process, actually, and certainly after things have cooked. Cooking is also disinfectant, but after the cooking process, it's very important that you keep everything clean. Otherwise, no good beer. And then you need a lot of stuff to clean up and a lot of patience, as I told you. It takes about 2 months to get the beer ready. the original Danish recipe said that you can taste it after 2 weeks or so in the bottle, but that's not really true. So I hope this has gotten you interested. I hope to see you in the kitchen of the BSD hardware hacking tent this afternoon at 2 o'clock. Thanks a lot.
Are there any questions? Please step forward. Oh.
Is it?
Sorry. Okay, there we yeah.
Hello. Is it possible to use dry yeast? Use dried yeast?
I suppose so, but I have never tried it. I just go to the baker's and get fresh one. Anybody else?
No more questions?
Okay, then I'll go prepare my stuff for this afternoon.
The next speaker is René Schiekbauer, also known as Kavak, and he's going to give a talk about the Blinken Light project, and it tends to have some light bulbs involved. Blinken sisters, yeah. Where is the...
We are from Multiverse, but
I was looking for...
I'm the 5th, okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Maybe... Is Mr. Kavak not here of the Blinken Sisters project? Huh? Okay.
Let's see, it's on. Yes, it's on.
Okay.
What questions during the talk or after?
After the talk, I think.
Can you bend this a bit towards your mouth?
Like this? Okay. So,
So please welcome Mr. Kavak. He asked me to have the questions postponed until after the talk. So he can give his talk first and then questions later.
okay, hi. Good morning. My computer still boots up. I run FreeBSD, so not everything works yet because it's FreeBSD current. It didn't help that I patched something in the kernel, so let's see if it works. I'm the maintainer and the original developer of the Blinken Sisters Jump and Run. Maybe some of you have seen it either here on the camp or on some of the other events in the past, like Chaos Congress, where we did this Blinken lights on, as a Blinken Sisters on Blinken lights, so you can play on houses or something. Okay, that may work. Let's see. Okay, Blinken lights is a retro style jump and run. So, in the spirit of Super Mario Brothers or Giana Sisters. but we decided not to just emulate the old game, but write a new one, because we wanted to use new technologies and really run the thing on nearly every open source platform we can find. Okay. Let's try this. On Knitter Linux Tage, it took me about 50 minutes to get this far, so obviously I fixed some bugs. So, let's see. Here we are. Blink Scissors is written in C++, but we don't use the object-oriented chunk in C++. We do it our own way, a bit old style, but it works quite well. We have embedded Lua scripting for the levels, so you can write your own functions in your own levels without touching the core engine. And generally speaking, Blink Assistance is easy to extend. I have written a Pong game within a level of the jump and run, and it works quite well. Project start was on 9th November 2005, my birthday. This is where I coded the initial graphics engine. The first run, the first time it actually looked like a jump and run game was on Chaos Congress. I think second day. Okay, at this time it was third day, 5 o'clock in the morning. After it first ran, I fell asleep in front of my computer, so it was obviously a productive night. And the first run on 64-bit was in March. So now it runs on Linux, Mac, Windows, all kinds of BSDs, Solaris. We do even have a port on ARIX. So if there is one SGI user still here, no. And that's the core developers. Kavek, that's me. Doughty, that's the second admin of the servers. Tug, Veyron, Mutante, Muhadib, and about 20 to 30 one-time or two-time submitters of patches. Until a few months ago, I was the maintainer. But at my workplace I was completely overworked, usually worked 10 hours a day, sometimes 6, sometimes 8, but it was actually so much work I more or less quit Blink Assistance. And since then, the project did not have a maintainer. I asked for volunteers in the project, and nobody volunteered because they know being the maintainer of this project is quite a lot of work, because everyone in the project has different ideas what to do next, like in more or less every open source project. So I had to take a drastic decision. The new maintainer is me. this time I don't do all the programming like I did last time, and everyone else does just add-ons and levels and such. I do some features, but not all of them. Otherwise, I'm back. Next release is on the 9th November 2009. My team actually doesn't know that yet, so you're the first to know. It's an anniversary release on my birthday. So I at least get one present for sure. If you want to talk to us, or if you want to contribute, or if you make your own game and just want to know how we did it, visit us in the Flaming Village. You go past the BSD tent, all the way back into the woods, and if you can't go no further, that's where we are. If you can't find us, you can go to www.blinkensisters.org, and you can get the game there. You have all the contact info. By the way, I forgot to put the email address on, but it's team@blinkensisters.org, so you can contact us. Any questions?
How does it look like?
How does it look like? Okay. Let's see if I can get it to work. I did some late night patching yesterday, so yeah. I forgot to mention there is also a 3D mode where you have these colored glasses, but since not all of you have them right now, I stick to the normal version. Here's a bit of a problem I did yesterday. Maybe I can just start the... Okay, that should be the release version, hopefully. Never drink and code. What I can't show you here, we have various add-ons here in the list, and there is in the game a download option which connects to the server if you have internet, or which indefinitely loops at the moment if you don't have internet. So that's it. So you have all the monsters. The main goal of the game is to collect all these blinking pixels. All the cheat codes are documented in our wiki. So if you're stuck, don't call me. Just go to the wiki and you get all the cheat codes. No. Here is one we did for Christmas that shows a bit of the scripting. That is a bit starts. Yes. All the snowflakes, all the packets and such, they're all scripted. The engine doesn't know how to draw snowflakes or moving objects like this. You can just script your own. You can put in the occasional break that kills the player if you collect it, so depends on how you want to spend your Christmas. And I hope I have it here. You can also do stuff like this. So that's also scripted. It's still a jump and run basically, but you know, if jump and runs are too complicated, or you always wanted to write your own Pong or Tetris or Space Invaders within a jump and run game, that's the way to go. Do we still have time?
Time is already gone.
Okay. Then.
You can make an answer to it.
Okay. One question.
Can you send email with it?
Not yet. But send in a feature request. We'll see what we can do. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
That's muted. You're welcome. Hello.
Okay. The next speaker is Mr. Hoppel from the Microcopter project. I have seen some things flying yesterday evening around the campsite. I don't know if it's those, but please welcome Mr. Hoppel to explain about this project. Waar is hij? Huh? Hoppel. Yeah. No, he's not here, but just. Now, I hope he can make it to us later, and we're just go on to the next speaker, just a slight change in the program. Next one up is Sebastian Bordecook, and he's authoring the Milky Mist project. I'm completely in the dark about the Milky Mist project, but it should be very interesting.
Hello? I'm doing a presentation on a hardware video synthesizer, so I will use it for the presentation itself. So here it is. It's actually a FPGA development board for now, but I will try to make my own PCB later on, but at this stage of the project, it's only running on this board. So where is the VGA cable? Oh, okay. I just switch it on, and I hope it works. Yes, it does. So right now, the image is coming from this board. So what I'm presenting, it's a device for video performance artists, also known as VJs, for video jockeys. It's inspired by the popular MilDrop program for PCs that probably some people already know. I will show later on some pictures that MilDrop renders. And this device uses the same principle of rendering as MilDrop. What advantage it has, it's highly integrated. It's only a compact device. You just plug it and it works. You don't have to boot. You don't have to load software or anything. It's automatic. It has many interfaces. I'm planning to add MIDI control, so you can control the visuals with a MIDI keyboard. Also DMX. DMX is a protocol for controlling stage lights. And so you would be able to control the visuals with the DMX table, and at the same time, let the visuals control the light. And also, one of the biggest features is video mixing, which means that the device will have two PAL or NTSC video inputs, and you could do video mixing or other controllable effects and interfere with the video using the same principles as you make a MilDrop preset. It's basically a device at the frontier between big computers, which has lots of processing power or big GPUs, and small devices, small microcontroller boards, to which you can connect every interface or analog inputs or whatever. So I will show you some pictures of what MilDrop is capable of. So this is one of the presets. MilDrop actually is highly configurable, and you can load many visual effects. So this is an example. That's another one. Yet another one. The biggest point about this device is that it's entirely open hardware. Everything is integrated inside an FPGA. An FPGA is basically a blank silicon chip into which you can write whatever design you want as many times as you want. And the design that you put inside the FPGA is entirely open source. By contrast, some project called Arduino is only an IVR chip which does all the magic on the board. They call it open hardware, but it's not really open hardware because everything on the Arduino is done by the IVR chip. And the IVR chip is really a black box. The people at the company who designed the IVR chip probably use the same kind of methodology I used to design the Milky Mist chip. And all these design files are typically company confidential. Nobody knows really what is inside the IVR. It's not the same at all with Milky Mist, because with Milky Mist you have all the chip design, which is entirely open source. And so if you want to make a chip, if you want to make your own chip, you can do it. You can just run the source code, you can just run the source code of Milky Mist into a special program, which will make chip patterns for a real chip. And you can also run it to a different program and implement it on FPGA. Here I only use FPGA because making a chip is very expensive. So Milky Mist is actually more than just a visual synthesizer. It's a complete system on chip. A system on chip is like a microcontroller which has a CPU core and many peripherals. So it can actually run C programs. You can compile them with GCC, and you can execute it on the on the special microprocessor inside, and it can interface both with peripherals for generating video signals, for controlling buttons, for controlling MIDI, DMX, or whatever. And you also have a special graphics acceleration units to render some visual effects, because some of them are very CPU intensive, and if I do it just on a processor, it would be very slow. So just like it's done on a computer graphics card, I have some special hardware inside the chip to accelerate graphics. I will just go more into the technical details of the chip. So a chip, this chip, just like any computer system, uses buses. I use 3 different buses. I use Wishbone as a general purpose bus. Wishbone is made by a community called OpenCores, and this OpenCores community releases many hardware designs as open source. And they advocate the use of the standard Wishbone bus for every connection between these chip building blocks. And I use 2 other custom buses inside this chip, because Wishbone had some problems with performance and resource utilization mostly. So I have 2 different buses for inside this chip. One of the buses is for only controlling small peripherals like LEDs or push buttons, and also serial interfaces for debugging. So this is a very simple bus, which is simpler than Wishbone and slower than Wishbone. And also a special bus for high-speed memory access. I will not go into the detail, but controlling DRAM, dynamic memory, just as DDR SDRAM, is pretty tricky. And using this bus allows easy use of DDR SDRAM as high performance level without a lot of complexity. So the base system is a 32-bit RISC CPU, which is connected to the Wishbone bus I was talking about. Right now I use Micro32. It's made by Lattice Semiconductor. It's a big company, but they release it under a BSD style license. And before that I was using AEMB, which is developed by Sean Tan, an individual. And it was licensed under LGPL. The system on chip uses off-chip flash memory for storing the bootloader. It has some on-chip SRAM. Actually, I have the purpose of the on-chip SRAM is only to debug the DDR SDRAM, because DDR SDRAM is complicated and always failing. So it's very practical to have to be able to run some software on the chip, even if DDR SDRAM is not working, just to be able to debug that DRAM and then load the complete program into DRAM, because you only have a few kilobytes of SRAM. On the basic system, you also have a serial transmitter for debugging and GPIO ports for push buttons, LCD, or whatever devices. And this system on chip is pretty advanced because it's able to run UC Linux, or you can also program it like a microcontroller without operating system. So I was talking about the memory. This system uses DDR SDRAM with a custom memory controller, which has this high-performance bus I was talking about, and it's connected to the CPU bus, Wishbone bus, with a bridge. Also, for generating these pictures that you see now, the FPGA directly drives digital to analog converters for generating the RGB component video. FPGA is only a digital component. You don't have any analog interfaces, so you need to add some external interface to generate the analog parts of the signals. And so the seamless way to do it is to connect a pure digital to analog converter to FPGA. Now, a few words about graphics acceleration inside the chip. It has acceleration for texture mapping unit. So texture mapping unit is what you are doing with your graphics cards. So you can distort an image any way you want. You also have a programmable floating point unit, which is a bit like a vertex shader inside your graphics card. And all this is highly flexible. You can implement mid-drop or implement whatever computation you want, like, I don't know, just rotating a picture, or the compositing effects you like with KDE or whatever interface. You can also do it with these hardware components. The video inputs are still in development because I don't have any Pylon TSC on this board, but so I need to make a custom PCB, and I didn't have time for it yet. So you could do live video mixing with video inputs. And also for controlling, I'm planning to use, as I told you, MIDI, GMX, and perhaps Ethernet for the open sound control protocol. So this enables the use of the device in artistic installations, performances, concerts, and whatever. So if you have if you want more information, you can get to this website. You will find the complete source code, binary kits. If you have this development board, you can download the binary kit, and you don't have to install all the FPGA tools to get it running. You can just download the binary, and then you can change only the software. You will have a mailing list if you want to follow the development. You have wiki, blogs, and you can obviously find these slides. Just before we go to the questions, I will just show you a little demonstration of the system. So I'll just change the boot image name and reboot the board. Okay, now I will just throw the mid-drop preset. Okay, right now it's working. You don't see a lot of things, but yes, you see a little bit. So this is one of the sample mid-drop presets you can run. And right now this is running on the FPGA system on chip with hardware acceleration. So thank you for your attention.
Are there
Any
any
questions?
questions?
Yes? It really depends. This board costs $500, but if you use a cheaper FPGA, because this uses the Virtex 4 FPGA from Xilinx, which is very expensive, and this board is a development board which is made in small quantities, and it has a lot of peripherals that I don't use, such as USB or whatever. It's also a very high quality board with a very expensive PCB, which was, I don't remember, it was maybe 12 layers or something, because it's really made for high reliability. But if you make a cheaper design with for example, a Spartan FPGA, or and with less interfaces, it will cost a lot less than $500. Yes? Where do I buy the hardware? This board, you can buy it from Xilinx shop. You go to xilinx.com and you can find this board. But sorry. The question was, where do you buy the hardware? So you can find this board at, for example, Xilinx web shop or any other electronics distributor. It's not very hard to find.
How does the silicon area compare to actually a real silicon if you implement not using FPGA but well real gates?
So, sorry, I didn't get your question.
The amount of silicon area is much bigger if you use FPGA than if you have actually synthesized your own chip, right? So that also has a big impact on the cost.
You mean, is the FPGA more expensive than a real chip?
Yes.
Yes. Most of the cases, it depends on the volume. If you are, when you are making a chip, you have a very high engineering cost at the beginning to make the chip masks. This can go into millions of euros. And so you have to sell lots and lots of chips, and this cost get divided over all the chips you sell. But if you are only making a small volume, it's cheaper than using FPGA because FPGA has more or less a fixed cost. It's a cost per unit.
More questions? Oh.
On your license, it said eGPL. Do you want to explain that just briefly?
Yes, eGPL is a license to which you can define exceptions. For example, you can exclude militaries from using your design.
No more questions? There's time for still one question. And we'll carry on to the next speaker while he's setting up his equipment. Next speaker is Mr. Melvin Rock. He's about the multiverse. No, that was the multiverse project. No, the multiverse project is the next one up. No one here? Okay. While Mr. Melvin Rock is setting up the equipment, I have some announcements. There are some changes in the presentation programs. There is an iPhone talk at Monty Hall at 1900 hours that has been cancelled. So the iPhone talk 3.0, which was scheduled for 1900 hours tonight, has been cancelled, unfortunately. There will be a new talk at 2300 tonight about WikiLeaks. There will be a panel discussion about WikiLeaks again. This time it's in the Monty Hall venue, and there we'll continue to have the discussions. And at 1600, two talks have been switched in their location. The relaunch of Bits of Freedom will be in the two envelope stands. The two envelope stand is the third tent, which is on the other field. And the Tempest for the casual electron hacker has been moved to Monty Hall. So please mark these changes in your booklets so you don't show up at the wrong presentation. May I introduce to Mr. Melvin Rock about the multiverse project. He's still setting up his microphone, so. During the talk or after?
After.
Please save your questions until after the talk.
Okay, hi, welcome. I'm Melvin. This is Gabriel. We are from the Multiverse project, which is basically, what is Multiverse? Multiverse is an open, decentralized virtual world where players can interact with other people and objects. The idea came from Koen Martens. He's also a HAR 2009 organizer. We started the project in August 2008 at the Rijswijk University of Technical Education. We did about 1 year of development with about 2,300 work hours. At the moment we have 3 active team members, which are me and Gabriel, and a guy, Morrison from England, and I bet he's watching the stream right now, so but he's not here. The concept is it's based on a decentralized grid. People can connect their own server to the grid. We are using real-world physics with user-generated content, which generates the world, the objects are graded by the users themselves. For that we use resource sharing, so no patches are needed. resources can be shared between servers and clients. We have a login system, which also, all these things are very difficult in a decentralized way. Scripting to extend the world, and a web browser just to not have switch between the world and your normal web browser. Well, some features. A server works in the grid layout. Neighbors can connect to the 4 sides, north, east, west, south. Perhaps in the future also the bottom and top, but that's too difficult to implement right now. For the physics, we use the Bullet library. For storage, PostgreSQL with object information and all the other stuff. Resources are put on a HTTP server, which is LightTPD. For the decentralized server, we also written some protocols which are needed because using a decentralized world generates also loads of problems. And also some management tools to make life easier for developers and server admins. I have an animation which explains a bit how the grid works. Well, there's one server. It can be connected to other servers. So the world can grow to a bigger world. Worlds can connect with each other. And to keep it simple, we just use a really simple grid which have about 25 servers. Local logon, that isn't really a problem. A user connects to a server and the server acts with if the logon is fine. But what when a server has an account on an external server and the server still wants to verify the information? Well, then one of the servers should ask the other server it's okay. But there's that doesn't really work because when I have a server outside the grid, I can still log on everything without having a real account in the grid. So we designed a trusted server protocol. Why? Because none of the servers cannot be trusted. And we have to decide which server we have to trust. Well, the trusted server protocol does about 5 things. When a neighbor connects, it sends all trusted server data to that server and establish the link for communication. It also broadcasts all the information to the other servers in the grid. A received broadcast will not be sent if it's in already. So there are no double, the information is not double sent. And the same happens when a server goes offline. It will send the information to the grid. And when a link is lost, it will retry to establish the connection again. I will demonstrate it. We have one server, it connects to the other and they find each other. That also can happen with more servers. At this moment, the server 2 and 3 just send information to each other. Okay, now we connect a server to number 15 to extend the grid, and the information is broadcasted like this way to the grid. This all happens, 12 and 13 will drop now. And for example, 2 and 3 do not resend the information because they already received it. Now, Gabriel will tell something about the client.
Okay. I'll tell something about the client. We make our own client and we don't use an already existing client, like the second live client, because that would limit the features we can put on the server. So the client implements the server protocol, and it displays it in a 3D game world. So the client connects to multiple servers and renders all these servers. And these servers are filled with user-generated content. There's a build mode and a play mode, so people can build objects and add them to the server. And the client will be multi-platform, because all the libraries we use are multi-platform. Here's a screenshot from the client. You can see some trees, objects, and a fat ogre in the middle. So to send objects to the client, we use a simple and extendable object system. So if an object is created on a server, it's automatically shared to all clients. And if the client creates an object, it will be shared with the server, and then the server will share it with the rest of the clients. Objects, they contain components, so you can see them like the particle component, the visual component, the sound component, and the position component. Here's another screenshot with lots of objects in the game world. So every one of these objects has a visual component and a position component. Well, for a resource system, we use a HTTP server. The client downloads all resources multi-threaded, so there's no blocking. This means we don't need to patch the client. So to extend the functionality of the client without recompiling, users can add scripts to their objects. The scripting is based on events. So for example, if the object hits another object, the sound is played, or if the user hits an object, it changes the color. The scripting language we will use for this is Lua, because it's a popular scripting language, and it's used in a lot of games already. To render all these servers and the landscape, we need a scalable landscape rendering engine. So we do this by giving every server a page. So every server has a terrain, and if you connect to 25 servers at once, and you render all the terrain, it's going to be very slow. So to still make it work, we decrease the detail of distant servers, and servers that are closer have a higher detail, so it still works. Well, here you can see a screenshot of a server grid of 3 by 3 servers. In the middle you see the home server, and around this are the neighbor servers. So the client is totally powered by open source software. Ogre as the render engine, RuckNet as the networking engine, Boost as a support library, Bullet for physics, MyGUI for the GUI, and Lua for scripting.
This day, I'm not sure, do we have time left? Okay, then we can do a demonstration of a 3 by 3 grid right now. Later this day at 1400 in the Bike Shed Green, there's a workshop which we have plenty of time for questions, discussion, brainstorming, and also perhaps a detailed demonstration. Okay, let's do some demonstration right now. Okay, what resolution I'm running in? So this is the client. Okay. Well, I just start a grid first because we have not a decent internet connection at the moment. Well, this is basically the server with LightPD for resources and some tools to start a testing grid of 3 by 3. starting that right now. In a while we can see the trusted protocol working, finding each other. Yeah, they will spam some information. Let's just watch them finding each other. Takes a while. Also generating the map, calculating some stuff. Yeah, almost find each other. Yeah, well, at the workshop we also can show what happens when a server drops while being in-game. It's pretty hard to do that right now. Okay, so now the servers are finding each other. Okay, now we can connect. It takes a while again because it connects to all the servers right now. It have to download the map and load it into the memory. So the client is now connected to a 3x3 grid. Let's see if I can find one higher spot so we can look over the world. Okay, I can see one other server. Yeah, there. The one, the mountains at the back of the horizon, that's one other server. Let's see. Also, the weather system is also live. Let's see where the sun is. It's about this. Yeah, the sun is where the sun is right now in the real world. But where is it? I think. There it is. I can speed it up a bit. So now we are going ahead of time. Sun outside isn't doing that. It isn't really connected. So we have also the star system is like it is in the real world. Well, while we are watching, well, not a lot to see. There's more to see on my screen. But are there any questions?
What license did you publish the software? Is it GPL?
GPL, yes.
GPL, okay.
All the libraries are also open source, also GPL version 2 or 3, yeah. Our license is 3, yes.
Okay. Is there a Linux version or is it Windows only?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Is there a Linux version or is it Windows only?
That's what I forgot to ask. We are in the need of developers, also someone who knows about porting the system to other platforms. Also the client, the server needs to be in the FreeBSD port system, for example, and loads of other package systems. At the moment, the test version, the proof of concept is running on Windows, and we need people to port it to Linux, FreeBSD, perhaps macOS even. The libraries and the source code are portable, so I think it's for someone, it can be really easy, but we don't have all the knowledge.
Hi. What about importing and exporting objects from other worlds, from Blender or from even No Life, Second Life?
Yeah. At the moment, we have our own system, which is based on XML. So you can describe your object, link some textures to it, and yeah, for example, the boxes I think they will go flying. Okay, the boxes are also described in that way. So an object consists of Gabriel XML, texture, mesh, and a few other perhaps a sound.
Depends on what you add to it.
Yeah.
But you can export models from Blender to the game engine.
Okay, thanks.
It looks really cool, but I'm wondering, for a distributed system, how well does it really scale? Because it took for 9 servers, it took quite a while for them to find each other. And if I understand correctly, every time a connection drops, everybody needs to be notified. So if you get a really big network,
at the moment, the client is also programmed to connect to 9 servers in the initial state. So when it's bigger, that's the skill system. Let me get the sheet. It's one of those. This is the idea. It's a bit slow because the client and the server are running. So the blue ones, those are what you see, and those are the servers you are connected to. And the other ones aren't connected.
With a large number of users in a virtual world, there's probably quite a big possibility that a fair bit of abuse will go on. How do you prevent abuse in your decentralized environment?
Did you?
No, sorry, I didn't hear it.
Because if there was a large number of users on the system, somebody could potentially grief other users, they could put potentially illegal content up there. How do you prevent abuse?
Yeah, preventing abuse is very difficult because it's decentralized. When you go to safer systems, which are or easier, safer systems, you go easy to a centralized way with perhaps one controller server or something. But we want to keep it decentralized. So the trusted server protocol can do a lot, but I think loads of extensions are needed to make it much more safer.
Cheers.
It's time for one more question.
I'm curious, can the current map system wrap around itself? Can servers on the edge, as I see there, connect to each other?
Did you heard it?
They connect to each other. You mean that?
Yeah, whether you've got the nine field grid.
Oh,
can the outer servers connect to each other to wrap around?
I did some experiments with that. What I did is I had 2 servers connected to each other on the west and east. I connected to the north of the left server, to the south of the right, and it rendered, it extended in, so it was looped. So that's possible, but there are still some bugs because it isn't built for that. But we can use it as a feature.
With some modification to the client, it should be possible.
Okay, thank you for listening. I hope to see you guys at the workshop. Bike Chat Green. Thank you.
Okay, next speaker is Mr. Don Hopkins. He's also talking about a virtual world called Macropolis Online. So please wait till he has set up his equipment. During that I can repeat the announcements which I made earlier. The iPhone talk at 1900 tonight has been cancelled. At 2300 tonight, there will be an extra panel session on WikiLeaks. So please join us all. And the sessions at 1600, relaunch of Bits of Freedoms is now in the 2 envelope stand, which is on the other side. And Tempest for the Casual Election Wrecker is going to the Monty Hall. You want the questions during the talk or after it? After the talk. Questions, please, after the talk.
Okay. Does that work? Apparently. Yeah. Okay. I'm Don Hopkins, and this is the Micropolis Online project. And I'll give you a quick history and then try to get through the slides to the demo. I started working on SimCity about 1992, and when I saw it at college before that, I just fell in love with it and really wanted to figure out how it worked and do stuff with the user interface and everything. So when I had the chance to port it to the Sun workstation, I jumped at that, and then made a version of it using the News window system, James Gosling's PostScript-based window system, and then an X11 version that was multiplayer. So we sold that as a Unix product. So then that went out of, the contract expired on that. And later on, I went on to Maxis to work on The Sims with Will Wright, and then I dredged up this SimCity code, and we talked Electronic Arts into making it open source under the GPL v3 a few years ago. So now the argument, or not the argument, it was actually they were very pleasant about it. So the thing that convinced them that it was a good idea was the One Laptop Per Child project, because the OLPC project is focused on constructionist education, which is about children learning, or anyone learning, by building things. And SimCity is pretty much the quintessential constructionist education game. But it needs to be opened up so that it can be even better. So now this OLPC project is based on Seymour Papert's ideas about teaching children to even program when they're very young, and Alan Kay's ideas about like the Dynabook and object-oriented programming, and just kid learning. How do kids learn? So, and one of the important things about constructionism is kids helping each other and communicating and teaching each other. So let's see. So I took the old X11 version, and I had made it multiplayer for X Windows, but I simplified that and took that out for this. And now that's on the OLPC. So what we really needed to do was to make a new version that had a much better user interface designed to take advantage of the things the OLPC can do. So they use Python as the scripting language for OLPC. And let's see. Oh, let me go on. Okay, so the goals, we want to make a fun game that's based on the original source code, and constructionist education is sort of the overall thing, but it's very hard to figure out how that actually manifests itself in a game. But we're using free open source software and making it distributed, run centralized on a server. And we want to put in things to support collaboration and voting and teach democracy and also teach language skills and interpersonal communication skills. So let's see. So far what I've done, we took this TCL TK-X11 version, cleaned it up, got it through EA's quality assurance, and put it on the one laptop per child. Then I stripped down the code and made it into C++, and then cleaned it up and refactored it, took out all the user interface. So that then started building a new user interface on top of it. Now I had a very good, I guess I can't, back to the presentation. Okay, I had some really great help from some people, volunteer. Albert Hofkamp is a Dutch university programmer that he helped me clean up this code and put Doxygen documentation into it. And so now the code is much sturdier and easier to do something with. Now, and Tom Tianaloy is an artist that's also helping on the project, and I'll show you some ideas that we've put together about what direction it's going to go in the future. And let's see. I'm also working with Robert Shepard, the Eduverse Foundation, to make this into an educational game. And also, we're benefiting from the Kennisnet and IBM Netherlands, who are helping us make an educational version of this game. So the idea is like this OLPC is kind of like something for people to focus on and get a bunch of people on board to really make this happen. And what's really wonderful is I have had some really great conversations about this with and encouragement from Alan Kay, who's he's been trying to do this stuff for years with kids, making his criticisms of SimCity were that you can't see inside of it and understand what it's doing, and you have to accept it as a black box. So now I'm trying to solve that problem. So anyway, we are using a whole bunch of open source software, building on top of it, and then making new software that's open source. Let's see, one of the things the OLPC project wants game developers to do is to make games out of modular components that can be plugged together to make other games. So I'm separating out the tile engine of SimCity and the sprites and the sound and trying to make those work for other things. So anyway, the architecture of the web version is there's a C++ game, and then I'm using the Swig. Swig is a tool for making wrappers for libraries and plugging them into extension languages. And it lets you get your library to a whole bunch of different extension languages. So right now, it's Python, but it could be Lua or Java or whatever. So then there's another layer, which is like gluing the game into Python. And the nice thing about Swig is you can subclass your C++ classes in Python and then just script everything in a nice language. So anyway, it's all open source stuff, and the web server, does HTTP and it does Adobe AMF, which is kind of like binary JSON. Now I'm doing the client in another open source scripting language called OpenLazlo, and OpenLazlo is like JavaScript and XML that gets compiled into Flash, but it will also compile into just generic DHTML. So right now I'm concentrating on just getting the Flash interface working, and then once that's all, the paint's dry on that, I can then do the parts that were Flash specific using like the canvas and DHTML and things. So the intention is to get it independent of Flash, but Flash is the fastest way to get it working first. So, so on the other thing, I have a GTK user interface, so for the desktop. And but let's see. So another important thing is internationalizing it and taking all the strings out. And I would love to have volunteers to help translate it to other languages. I've made a little web-based tool to do that. So you know, we're doing this for the Dutch educational system with Kennisnet support. So let's see. So now previously I made a multiplayer version of this for X11, and you know, X11 doesn't scale very well, and it was kind of an experiment, but it did test out some ideas of making it a collaborative, cooperative game instead of a competitive game. So I didn't want to mess up the game, but I wanted to layer another social game on top of it. So, you know, we're all sharing the same money, but we're trying to achieve the same goal. So if somebody does something that pisses you off, you're going to be mad at them and won't play with them, and you'll get to, you know, that will play out at a higher level than the game. So basically, it's got voting for expensive things like making a nuclear power plant or changing the taxes. And then non-expensive things are just a free-for-all. So, but really, I want to revisit the multiplayer game, but first get a really solid base to build it on top of. And doing a web-based game is the best way to do that. So let's see. There's, yeah, so anyway, so I'm adding stuff like integrating it with Wikimedia. So the one of the important things about constructionist education is getting people to help each other out and chat. And I want to teach, you know, language skills with this, not just how to be a good mayor. That's not the goal. It's how to write about what you want to do and convince other people to vote for it. So, and this, I think it's going to be nice to embed this in things like Facebook and Wikimedia, because what you're doing is writing stories in newspapers and blogging. Like The Sims had something called Sims Exchange, where when you save your game file, it also writes out a bunch of web files that describe the house, the family, the story you've told about them with pictures, and then it uploads that to the web. So really, playing the game is a web publishing tool. So I want to apply those ideas to SimCity, and that would be in the form of a newspaper. So you could act as a journalist and write when something happened. These events in the game are generating opportunities for you to click on it and open it up and write about what your interpretation of it is, and then automatically, you know, push it into a wiki page or like a blog. And so basically the result of playing a game will be this rich save file that has points of interest with stories attached to them, you know, so that you could look at it geographically as a map to see all the points of interest. You could look at it as a calendar, like a blog, and then all these things that happen with a story can link to a save file. So you can then jump back into the game at that point. So you know, basically I want to make the sort of like TiVo for SimCity is the eventual goal. So, you know, you have all these save file snapshots, and then you can fast forward and reverse by replaying the edits that you did. But that's kind of the, you could imagine like when you play a game at any point, if you decide, let's raise taxes, you make a checkpoint there, and then you could revisit that decision and then branch reality out to another thing if you didn't raise taxes, and then see what happened. So basically I want players to be able to make a tree of possibilities and then share all these save files and then comment on them and write about them. And that's where the educational stuff comes in. And you know, the teachers should be able to write scenarios that plug into the game that generate events and give people things to discuss. And then, you know, but anyway, so yeah, I got a great, Alan Kay said some really wonderful things. He said one of the most wonderful possibilities of this adventure is that it'll bring together very fluent designers from many worlds of computing, more worlds than usually combined to make a game in the service of children. We should really try to pull this off. So I'm looking for volunteers. I never thought I'd be working, you know, directly or indirectly with Alan Kay, but it just blew my mind that he was interested in it. So, and he's very supportive, because basically, here's the long-term goal. there's a game, and there's a robot or a monster. You double-click on the monster, it should open up a window and have a visual program that controls what that did. And this has already been done in the 80s on the Apple II, and it was a game called Robot Odyssey by Warren Robinett, who made like the Atari Adventure. And it was so before its time. Turns out it's Alan Kay's favorite game that he thinks he's waiting for the other shoe to drop, okay? Because it taught visual programming and logic to kids by, you go inside a robot, and it's a room with plugs and sensors, and you have logic parts that you can bring out and make a circuit inside that robot. So what I'm trying to do, I better get to the demo, is do this within SimCity. So, and with a visual programming language that's just a layer on top of Python. We already have Python. I like Python. It's well designed. I'm not going to try to invent something different. I just want to give you a visual way to get to anything. So anyway, yeah, how does constructionist education manifest itself in something like SimCity? So creative writing, blogging, and twittering and chatting, all this social stuff that people do. Democracy, writing proposals, trying to get somebody to, support your proposal, and, publishing things into Wiki, and then opening up to enable plug-in programming. And just look, the first step is look at the code to see how it works, and then tweak it and change it, and then make your whole thing. So anyway, the older kids I want to teach, Python, C++ programming, and then younger kids will have this easier language, this higher level language to do logic. So this is, version 3. I'm only at version 1 right now. Okay. So I have the web server running. I want to put in sharing a city, tagging, journals, discussions, the whole kind of social network thing. It occurs to me maybe I should just let Facebook handle a lot of that stuff and just make a Facebook plugin. And slow the game down a lot. So on your Facebook page, it'll let your friends vote to things. I'm getting ahead of myself, but MediaWiki integration. It's just take well-known things that solve a problem well and piggyback on top of them instead of trying to invent your own thing. So PayPal, maybe we can pay for all the CPU time it takes. Anyway, Tom made these mock-ups of what SimCity could look like inside a social network, where the important thing is you have to have an identity, and it knows about you. You've got friends, and this could be this could be a Facebook app where if you add the app, you can do all this stuff and play it yourself. But even if you don't add the app, you can see what other people are doing. Oop, wrong button. Okay, so it's all about having people see what you're doing and explaining it to them. You can have these links into the save files and people saying things. And I want to make it one game might last a week, and take little steps. So now then you can have okay, I'll get to this. Okay, what I've made to just test plugins is I made plugin zones, and the first plugin zone I made was a plugin church, because that's controversial and will upset people. So now the idea is I want to be able to script churches in Python. So the other plugins plug-in characters. So let's anyway. So a multiplayer game, there could be several people in, and you're on the map at a place, and you can chat embedded in the game, and then collaborative editing. So I'd like if you put something down, it'll put an interface that says, hey, somebody wants to make this. Do you vote for it? Yes or no? And then have a chat associated with that. So and then imagine other people can come into your game and find, hey, this zone is not developed. We're going to put a coffee shop here, So I wanted eventually to be open enough that other people can come in and affect your game. So, and of course, you always have a save file. So, but here, let me run. Let's see, Emacs. Yes. Okay. So here's. Whoa. Wait, where's my other screen? This is very disorienting. Yeah, okay, so there's a tool for doing translations. And, it's all on Google Code. And, that's the robot. I wanted to show some code. So, and this is how Pac-Man works. So, and he follows. Okay, so anyway, so I wrote it a plug-in robot that you could put into the thing. And I better get to the actual code that's running. Okay. So this is, I don't know where my cursor is. Okay, so these are the different scenarios we could load or generate something randomly, or just here we'll do my favorite city here. Well, not one of my favorite cities. So I made this city. So, okay, so now this is a neat kind of a lazy tile view, because there's all, 120 by 100 tiles on the server, and we're telling the server where we're looking at, and it's sending the tiles that we need to see. So now, so here, things that happen in the city get logged, and there's a chat, and this will help you figure out what you need to do to improve your city. And this is like a history. So, okay, here's the nice one here. We can raise taxes a lot. So, it was so funny because the taxes in the Netherlands are so much more than 20%. But so we could look at the and hope I haven't offended anyone. So, okay, here's a meltdown. We can now, if you have a meltdown, then it says, "Hey, this meltdown, explosive." Okay, boom, and you go there. So, anyway, so now this little window up here, what I want when something interesting happens in the game, it's going to show you a live view and tell you something. But we can have a link to Wikipedia or whatever. So I want to put in more educational stuff that, like, the church says, "Hey, did you know that Scientologists believe this? Click here for more." And so. You can think of the churches as like in-game advertising. So, and then if you have too many churches, you use the bulldozer to get rid of them. So, now there's a speed control. I can make it go super duper fast, and everybody just left basically. So this is more like a Twitch game. And okay, here. Let me do the cheat. Okay, what is it? I just added this. I'm not quite sure. Okay, here you go! Exclamation mark. Faith 1,000. That makes them want a lot more churches. Okay. Whoa. Okay. So I'm getting churches. So I've only done one church besides the generic ones. So they just have little numbers on them. So okay, I'm going to have a tax of churches option too. So those are weird generic churches. But if I put the this is. Okay, I'll lower the taxes, and then more people will come in, and then the churches will recruit them. And okay, ran out of money. Okay, so the thing is, now let me do the robots real quick. So it's okay. Oh dear, this is a small screen. Okay, so this is Pac-Man right now. You can put him down. Oh, I'm out of money. Okay. Wait. The fastest way is just to refresh the screen and start fresh. So, okay, so we'll go straight in. We'll get rid of this. And then, pie menus, right. If you click, one of these. No, that's the panel. Oh, here, I got to have a talk with my translator. So you click and you get a pie menu, which is items around the cursor in different directions. So if you click and go right, you get a road. And then you can do a little road, and click and go up and right, you get a bulldozer. So this, this is and then sub-menus for zoning, parks, or stuff like that. So this gives you a nice quick gesture interface. But the one I wanted was the PacBot, yeah. So if you click him, now that's running Python code that is looking at the map, and it looks for the traffic, and it goes up, 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 up. See, wait, you haven't, hang on, wait. You can have lots of them. And then they compete. You get this wonderful emergent behavior of Pac-Man looking for traffic, and then the other Pac-Man eats it. Control. Okay, here. You really need to sort of zoom this up a little bit. Yeah. Okay, but the great thing about this is another game layered on top. And then it's like you can make your Pac-Man maze, and then you can torture them. Let's see. They'll go crazy. It's like a lion in his cage here. Ah, caught one. Ah, he's blue. He's like, okay, let's get him here. Okay. He's not going to be happy about this. Well, where'd he go? Oh, there was a menu to get rid of him. So I think I delete here. Okay, here. We'll put there. No, he's just going nuts there. So, but anyway, so, wait, where do we go from here? Oh, right, wait. Real quick. Where's my iPhone? Did I leave the phone down here? Oh, well, okay, you can't see it, so you'll have to believe me. So yeah, so the first multiplayer interface I'm making is an iPhone app. So it loads the city, and it lets you zoom and run over it. And I'm just about to hook it up to the server so that you'll be able to come into the game as a helicopter and just tilt and run around and then just chat. So eventually I want to do the whole game on the iPhone and the Android, of course, and whatever else. But the first step is to, just get presence and chatting in there. One interesting thing, this is GPL v3, so you can't put it on the iPhone on purpose because of the anti-TiVoization clause, but it's okay, though, to have it running on the server. And I think it's more interesting having it running on the server because there's already a SimCity that runs on the iPhone. So, anyway, yeah. Any questions or, I think. What's the cheat code to get money?
War.
Oh, war? Oh, that's what churches are for. So you can, I encourage you to script your own church and plug it in. So, no, I'm totally going to have the Flying Spaghetti Monster go in. He's going to actually convert all the other churches to Flying Spaghetti Monster churches, so it will be a moot point and there will be no more. So,
please thank Mr. Hopkins for his nice solution to the traffic problem. And we go on to the last speaker about remote barcode injections. Sometimes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the presentation about the microcopters will be scheduled after this. Huh? Yeah. No.
I would have just make a short demonstration so everybody waiting for microcopters would have to see something.
Okay, so about 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Should we do this, or?
Yeah, we can do that.
Didn't show up, did he?
Yeah. Because Mr. Hopkins ate all of your time.
Okay. Not my time. I would just be reporting.
Yeah. So just show it.
And then show it and ask for questions. Okay.
Yeah. So about 5 minutes. There will be a slight change in the program. The item about microcopters can still be done. In about 5 minutes you will see something which boggles your mind. And all questions of...
I take your microphone.
Yeah, that's also okay. So...
Okay, sorry for everybody waiting for the microcopters, but somehow someone from the village is missing. So that you don't go completely without seeing a copter flying, I thought I'll just start it up here and then give you time for a few short questions. So for the first, let's try if it flies in here. Okay, so any questions? No, just a few words. This is a microcopter project. You'll find it on www.microcopter.de with 2 Ks. That's because the Cs are up there on the hill, so they were used. And it's basically a control board, which has a microcontroller. It's an 80 mega, which you need to control 4 brushless motor controllers. So for each motor, you have an individual controller, which controls the speed of the motor, so it stays equal. For this, it uses 3 gyroscopes and then 3-axis acceleration sensor. So basically what you need is 4 motors, some alloy construction to hold the motors, 4 brushless controllers, and the flight control circuit board. You can buy this completely assembled in the shop, or you can buy the circuit boards and put the parts on yourself. Some things are very hard to solder. Some things are basically normal SMD stuff. And yeah, that's everything you need to fly, except for a receiver and a normal transmitter, which is standard as for model cars and every other flying object. And yeah, so I would rather ask for questions, as I don't have any slides or something. I'll repeat the question, just shout it out loud. You're asking, can it fly on itself, or? There's an extra circuit board called the Navi-Control. This Navi-Control can interact with a GPS, so you can fly to GPS coordinates autonomously, but that's illegal, so you have to control it. So you all the time have to be able to control it with the remote control, so you can't fly out of range of remote control, otherwise it wouldn't be a model plane anymore, at least in Germany. Yes? Hello? Okay, you. Yeah, exactly. It can be as autonomous as legislation and your hardware and everything allows. Yeah. Okay. One more question. Not as the question was if there are blood alcohol limitations. Not that I know of, but in Germany you have to have an insurance. So possibly your insurance has a policy which prohibits you from flying under alcohol influence. Okay, so just visit the website and visit the Flying Object Village, because I think there's an assembling workshop later on this day. So possibly if anybody has questions relating to the microcopter, just go to the Flying Object Village and visit the workshop for building your own. Okay, thanks.
Last presentation is about barcodes, and the numbers under a barcode are not supposed to be what they should be. We are going to explain it now.
Okay, so my talk, the title of my talk is Remote Barcode Injection. First of all, I have to say I'm only talking about one particular kind of barcode scanners, laser barcode scanners for one-dimensional barcodes, the classical ones. So how do these scanners work? They basically have a laser which is moving very quickly, and it's measuring the reflectance of the surface. So if the laser hits a black bar, there's less reflectance, less brightness. If it hits a white area, there's more reflectance, so more light. So our idea was that we could just use a flashing light to simulate a barcode read. So no physical barcode present, but just flashing light, and the barcode scanner will think there was a barcode, even if there was no barcode at all. Our first approach was to use a simple red LED and pointing it at the scanner, and we were seeing what happened. We had quite bad results. It was only working for several centimeters, maybe 2 or 3 centimeters, 1 or 2 inches. We wanted to increase the distance. We wanted to inject barcodes from a larger distance. So what we were doing is we increased the energy. We ended up with this prototype here. It consists of a battery pack, 21 ultra-high power LEDs, light-emitting diodes. This is infrared, so the beam is invisible. And we got surprisingly good results. We were able, with this device, to inject barcodes from a distance of about 2 to 4 meters. We were actually testing it also in some supermarket stores. In one case, we were even able to trigger the scanner from outside the shop through the window. Because it's only light, so infrared light, it's of course possible to extend it to any range depending on the sender you got. But of course, especially with infrared light, you have to take care that you do not exceed dangerous levels for the human eye, because this light is invisible and you have no eye reflex. So when you try this at home, take care to know what you're doing to not harm people's eyes. Well, of course, you can just send a normal product barcode to any barcode scanner, but there are small things you can do. For example, there are voucher codes which are reducing the bill by some amount. There's a problem with this. If you try to use it for cheating, the scanner will of course beep and you will be noticed, but I will come back to that part later. Then you have some scanners accepting programming codes. So some barcode scanners come with a manual with codes. You scan them and you change the behavior of the scanner. There are really some funny codes. For example, for metrologic scanners, you have a code which is turning on funny beeping tones. So you don't no longer have the beep, but some kind of melody playing each time someone scans something, which would be quite funny. By the way, I don't know if you were at the CCC Congress last year. There's a media market over there. Last year they were quite scared by DVB gun, which is basically the same concept. It's also infrared. They use metrologic scanners too. Then another programming code I noticed was turning the laser control to an RS-232 control line. So in the manual there's a code saying scan this code if you want to turn the laser on, only if RS-232 CTS line is high. Unfortunately, this code is also accepted by the USB model. So if you scan this code, the scanner is dead. We also tried something else, not in the supermarket, only at home, which is jamming. By sending short pulses frequently, you can make actually a scanner to ignore any barcode as long as you point this device in the right direction. So while pointing it, no barcode will be read. And if you combine this with a barcode injection, you actually can change a barcode. You point the device at the scanner, send the jamming signal, nothing will happen. If some person moves something over the scanner, you press a button, and the barcode you want to be scanned is injected, and the person scanning it will not notice anything. So, yes, that's all. I really want to emphasize again, if you use this yourself and you use infrared light, take care to not exceed dangerous limits. Okay, any questions? In this case, we used the PIC microcontroller. It's a PIC 16F636, but actually can use any microcontroller like Atmel or something else. It's really very simple to write the software. All you will have to do is you have the barcode. For the white area, you use light on. For the black area, you turn the light off. You have to do it in the correct timing. If you do it too slow, the barcode will appear too big for the scanner. If you do it too fast, the barcode will appear too small for the scanner. Our experiences were for EHN to use 8 microseconds for the smallest bar worked quite well with some scanners, but you have to try it out. I don't have tried all our scanners because actually it was a bit difficult to do it in the supermarket. And this device didn't look so innocent.
Questions?
There? I didn't understand, sorry. The question was if reflectance is working too, right? It depends a bit on the amount of energy. So when we were using this with a metrologic scanner inside a small room, we actually could point the device at any position in the room and the scanner would detect the signal. But if the room is bigger, it will be more difficult, or you need more senders or synchronize them or whatever. But it's a matter of power.
More questions? Well, let's thank the speaker again. There's one final announcement. They're still needing volunteers, so please inquire yourself at the G field at the volunteering desk.